All right, welcome to Pass the Mic for Friday, February 24th. This is episode 61 after a week off. Joining us this week, we have our special guest, Mr. Thomas Pack. And of course, a co-host of Pass the Mic, Mr. Michael Gervasi. We are all on Zoom. What do we got here, Michael?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me, mirror, what is wrong? Can it be my, or is it just a song?
So we have to do some editing to keep our family-friendly
No,
status,
it's
I
not.
believe.
No. I didn't want to give it away. All right, I'll do it again. I'll leave it, but you got to guess the song then, because I think you're going to know the group.
Okay.
May he rest in peace. Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me, mirror, what is wrong? Can it be my De La close, or is it just my De La song? Oh my God. You are going to get hammered on this one.
So it's someone that's dead. Is
Someone
it a
that
group?
just died. Well, one person, the lyric I gave was the guy who died.
I don't know.
Pluck two.
I don't know. Well, we'll see if our guest can get it.
True Goy.
Mr. Pack, do you have a guess on that?
I think so. Last week, the last episode, you said it's harder to guess when someone's just speaking the lyrics. I never thought about that, but it's true.
Thank you for that.
But I'm gonna have to go with De La Soul.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mike, do you know them or no?
No, I don't.
My Lord, Me, Myself, and I is the song.
Me, Myself, and I. Q-Tip.
I didn't even. My most recent death in my mind right now is Richard Belzer from Law and Order and Homicide: Life on the Street. Me and the Ren Dog have been tweeting about that. So.
Okay. No, Q-Tip. Q-Tip. Let's go. Q-Tip is by far one of my favorite rappers of all time. So
yeah, he had a quick cameo in that song.
Yeah,
I think we have our first correct guest answer on your little intros, Mike.
Mike, I am like you're gonna get slammed on this one.
Listen. I've been slammed a lot this last 2 weeks.
What music did not filter south of like North Line Road? I mean, what the heck happened? Oh, actually,
this was the country. I mean, I'm further south than Woodhaven. Gibraltar is the country, man. That was the country back in those days.
So where was nothing? Was it Breland?
No, I would say West Road, Van Horn West. Yeah, this is the country, man. We had to go to Southgate for Applebee's and stuff. And Olive Garden.
Mike, you're
a big city.
Me, Myself, and I dances. That has never come up.
I not recently.
Okay.
All right. Well, as we've sort of pointed out here, we have a special guest, Mr. Thomas Pack. He's a teacher at Hunter. You want to give us a little more information about yourself and welcome you to the listeners of Pass the Mic, so Mike can stop bashing me for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I really appreciate you guys having me on here. That's a big deal. I mean, I'm a big fan of this podcast. When it first started, I was like, oh, interesting. And then I was hooked from the first episode. So you guys are doing a great job. And again, thanks for having me on. I'm Tom Pack. I've been teaching elementary for a little over 10 years. The last 8, going on 9 here in Gibraltar. I've been in Hunter ever since 4th grade. And I actually grew up in Woodhaven, so I went to the WU, graduated in 96. We can go into this later too, I don't know, but my life took a big old turn and I was in school and had to leave for a while and went back. But education was always my goal since even middle school. So I love it. And I don't know what else I would be doing if I wasn't doing teaching. So that's about it. I went to Eastern Michigan University, get my degree in elementary education. And yeah, that's it. I've been just living a dream in downriver. I never thought I'd be teaching in Gibraltar. I guess going to Woodhaven, you know how that is, going to Woodhaven and teaching in Gibraltar, and that big rivalry back in the 90s and stuff. So, but I love it here. It's an amazing district and it's only going up. So
yeah, so we had a lot of similarities here, Mike. All of us went with Tom. Eastern, downriver guys, youth coaches. We've all done some youth coaching, I know through the years. Have kids in the district, right? I have kids in the district where we work. So a lot of similarities here, but the one difference in a lot of the focus of today's show we're going to get to eventually is Tom's work in elementaries and how that differs with what Mike and I do and what we've experienced and that sort of thing.
Let me jump in, Mike, real quick. First off, awesome jersey, Tom, Barry Sanders.
That's right, I wore it for you.
Thank you. So Tom and I actually, another similarity, we've known each other, we knew each other before. our kids were Jamboree.
Jamboree. That's where we
Oh,
met.
look at that.
The second
Yeah.
teacher being Gentry Neely, a local celebrity of sorts. And so Tom and I have known each other for quite a long time before, and ran into each other again. He was subbing next door in Rocco Georgie's room. And that's sort of, I mean, we still knew each other, so I don't want to say even reconnected, but we sort of connected again at that point. And yeah, so a pretty cool story there, to say the least.
Yeah. Very cool. We're going to do our standard guest questions before we get into feedback from our last episode, which, by the way, let's get rid of the elephant in the room too. We were off for a week.
Yeah.
I don't want to violate anyone's FERPA or HIPAA rights.
Oh,
As I
good,
put on
I'm
the
good.
Facebook page. Someone was ill.
I did
and,
have COVID. I had COVID.
well, you did. I mean, you didn't have to come. Okay, well,
No,
Mike was ill
I mean,
with COVID.
you violate your own FERPA
He's
rules,
waived
so-
his HIPAA
Right,
rights,
fine,
and
yeah.
we just, and to be totally honest with you, the way last week went with me, I had no problem taking a week off as well. Got thrown around a little bit early in the week, and we had that Downriver League Student Council meeting on Thursday, which I think I said we could have recorded on Thursday. I don't think there was any way by the time I got home from that. So we took a little week off. It was not a Super Bowl hangover, but just a hangover in general. So let's take that care of. We're gonna do our standard guest questions, and I think Tom has a mic, and then we'll do some more recap from last week. So our standard guest questions, you've been listening, you're a day one fan, so you know what's coming with our guests. My question to you, and this is fitting, if we would have recorded last week, it was Tom's birthday just last Wednesday, I believe.
Oh yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy belated. We're recording here on the, we would have almost hit this perfectly with the
Yeah, that
questions.
was funny. That would have worked out.
But you know the question. So here it is. It is your birthday. Your choice of going out to eat somewhere or a home cooked meal. What are we doing? Where are we going out, and what are we having for our birthday dinner?
You know, of all the questions for today, this was the hardest one. I'm probably the most simplest palated person you'll ever meet. Like, you know, I don't like fancy food and stuff. I just, you know, I'm good with the every day-to-day kind of stuff, like eating sandwiches and stuff like that. So, you know, I got a lot of foods that I really like, but honestly, on my birthday every year, we get home from work, and the four of us, my wife and my boys, we just go up to Buffalo Wild Wings and just have a nice dinner. We come back home, you know, my family will whatever, make me a cake or something, and that's simple. And if that's how it goes, and that's how I like it. There's a lot of foods I can pick as well, but that's just easy. If I'm picking a home food though, I mean, I'm a steak and potatoes guy. It's easy, simple. If I'm gonna eat at home, I'm gonna grill a nice steak. Now my wife makes these great potatoes, fried potatoes, and that's my second choice, I guess. That's simple.
Did you hit Buffalo Wild Wings last week? Was that on the?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's easy, especially during the week. You know, everybody's working and you got school and stuff. And you come home and nobody wants to cook. Nobody wants to cook, so
and clean. So
right, exactly.
All right. Excellent. All right, Mike, your turn.
Yeah, second part. I think I know what your answer is going to be. You're going to melt some hearts here, but who you eating with, alive or dead? Who you having a birthday dinner with? If it's just one person.
You know, this is something I've never dreamed of, like being on a podcast or asking this question, but this is a question that I've had the same answer since I was a little kid. And honestly, it's my paternal grandfather, who I've never met. You know, my family growing up would tell stories of my father had two older sisters, and they grew up during the war and everything, and they would tell these huge stories, and they would build up my grandfather like he was like in my head when I was a kid, he was like a giant. He was just a superhero, and they would with the stories that they would tell about him, and he's just someone I've always been fascinated with, hoping to meet if I could one day, because he was actually missing in action during the Korean War, and he's still to this day never been found, or there's no records of him. So like when we were kids, my cousin and I would hear these stories, and we would wonder, I wonder if he's alive somewhere. When we're grown-ups, we're gonna find him, and stuff like that. And that was just a cool little fantasy we had, and that would be a really crazy cool way to meet somebody. So again, I mean, he would be in his 90s now, but so he's probably passed away either way. But that just, to me, still to this day, 45 years of life, that's just somebody I've never met that I've always wanted to meet. So
amazing story, Tom. That's very profound.
It is very cool that we keep the chain going too. Most of our guests pick a family member they avoid the rush to celebrity, which I really like. It's really cool. All right, so feedback on the show from 2 weeks ago. The big topic that came up from that show was the halftime shows. I knew I was going to get heat about Prince. I knew that. We tried to explain that, and I saw that. But did you get any other feedback? I know some of the feedback was about me and my Prince being overrated. What about you?
That was it. I mean, you're still the other part is the rap music that you just, I don't remember what it was even 2 weeks ago, but that you didn't know that that's the standard one. But yeah, man, Prince is, you really touched a nerve with that one. We talked about that at work the next day. I got several text messages about that.
I get it, but again, it was very good. Now, something I want to point out, the show also that took place most recently, Rihanna's show, there was a lot of text coming into us about that show throughout the day, and a lot of comment. And I sort of made the Facebook post, and someone on Downriver and Friends, shocker, complained about how bad it was. But I don't know.
What was the complaint? Like, what made it bad?
Worst show ever. The typical angry 52-year-old guy from Downriver, that looks all the same with a pair of Oakleys, and and said, worst halftime show ever. And I just, and again, we talked about this. I didn't think it was the worst ever. I didn't think it was the best ever. I thought it was good. Like, I don't need, and then I went on to find out, okay, she's expecting and she was pregnant, which was impressive to me. Right. And I'm like, well, that's pretty impressive, that she did all this while and showing pregnant, not like 1 month pregnant, not that there's any month that's easier or harder than the other, but I'm like, what people don't understand is, like, with her music, she's in a lot of these combination songs, right, where it's her and somebody else. Right. So was there a track playing in the background? Yes, but what I think was happening is she would sing parts, dance at some parts, the mic would go down, the track would still be playing in the back. It's not really like flat out lip syncing. I don't think. I think it's just a different type of live performance. And if you go to concerts, that's the way, the famous Pitbull concert that I went to, he duets with a lot of people. So a lot of the stuff is him doing his part. He puts the microphone down, and then it's again, I thought it was good. Was it the best ever? No. Was it the worst? But one thing I do notice, we DJ'd at Wise on Music, did DJ a daddy-daughter dance last night that Miss Fowler and Miss Wynn put on, the seniors put on, was really good. This performance, because there's a lot of kids here now. This is like an elementary themed dance, I guess I'd put it, because it's a daddy-daughter dance. A lot of requests for Rihanna now. Like, this sort of push, this show, I think, sort of a lot of her songs that were now like, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, are now people want to hear again. All of a sudden, we had a lot of requests for Umbrella and that sort of thing. So it worked for her.
Yeah, I was, when I was watching actually with the Pates and DePauli families, I wasn't. To me, it just I was hoping Jay-Z would come out. I think last year really set the bar high. I think it needed more. It really was theatrically was really good. But the theatrics kind of wear off pretty quickly. I'm not certainly going to suggest under any circumstance it was the worst one ever, but I just wanted more. I thought, I was waiting for Jay-Z, I was waiting for Eminem, people that she's collaborated with, something like that, some sort of surprise. Certainly performance-wise, she was remarkably good. The choreography is, I just can't do that, but I just wanted more. That's all it was for me.
Tom, do you have an opinion on the show?
Yeah, I'm the same. I was pretty much the same as Gervasi. Rihanna's amazing. Amazing talent, great voice. Most of the world knows her songs. But yeah, after not even just last year, just as far back as I can think of, there's always at least someone that pops out in the middle of it, or some sort of collaboration between two different genres of music. Yeah. And I think when people are just used to that, and then a lot of people are just like anticipating, so they're not really enjoying the show because they're waiting to see who's, like, you're right, is Eminem popping out, is Jay-Z popping out, who's popping out. Actually, one of my boys were like, I wonder if Tom Holland's gonna pop out. I don't know if he did like a lip sync spoof of her Umbrella song, and I guess it got a lot of views a few years ago. And so, I think that's what kind of makes it not quite the level of what it should be, even though she's an amazing talent. But yeah, after last year for me, it's hard. I'm comparing everything to last year. That was probably the best halftime show in since I've been watching halftime shows. So that was hard. I felt bad a little bit with some of the flack she got on Twitter and stuff, but the Downriver and Friends is the best. Someone's always got something to say down there.
I'm sure her billionaire self wasn't concerned with what Downriver and Friends or anyone else was saying. I'm sure she went home that night and slept like a baby.
Oh yes, for sure.
I do think for our listener, if you want to just find Mike Peone on Facebook in the comments, the trolling you do on Downriver and Friends is well worth your time. It's pretty funny.
And I don't mean to hijack this because I want to get into Tom's Mike of the Week.
Sure.
I actually posted on Downriver and Friends this week, and I thought for sure it'd get yanked down. So we talked about the balloons, right? And now there's been more things shot out of the sky in the past couple weeks. Now they think it's like some hobbyist balloon, and it got taken out by like a fighter jet. But whatever. So I go online and I find this picture of the Death Star with the clouds in the background, and I'm like, snap this picture over South Brownstown on my drive home today. Be safe, everyone out there. Posted on Downriver Friends. It survived. Like Downriver Jeff let it go. It has like over 800 likes. It's probably I should have like put a comment that says, hey, go find Pass the Mic podcast or something. And the best part was there's a few comments in there, like 97% of the people obviously knew it was a joke. But the 3% of people, a couple comments of like the WTH, like question mark, or like, oh my God. And I just left those alone. I couldn't be that cruel but these people actually think the Death Star was hovering over South Brownstown as a total threat at any minute. So,
oh man.
But it survived. The post is still there. You can go find it. All right. So with that, it's time for the Mic of the Week. Tom, we are letting you choose our Mic of the Week. We sent you the whole list of who's off the board. So who do you have for us as your Mic of the Week? And what we'll do is we'll print this up. We'll send it back with his son so he can sign it and date it and go up on the wall, and we'll get it back. So nice. Who's your Mic of the Week?
Oh man, my all-time Mic of the Week should have been Michael Diamond, but that was your episode 2. You guys already had Mr. Mike D on there. So I'm gonna go with Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson, the Team USA track and field star from the 90s. I loved the 200 in high school. That was like my favorite race when I ran track, and he ran the 200 and the 400 in the 90s, and so he was just kind of a guy I looked up to. I read his book. I try to emulate his training style and everything back then, and so that's always been a Michael that I really appreciated. The 1996 Olympics, where he won the gold in the 200 and the 400. So that was a big deal for us. Olympics were big in our household. So it not only was he a really good athlete to me, the Olympics were a big deal. One of the only athletes to win 4 gold medals at that time or something like that in track and field. So Michael Johnson is my Michael of the Week.
Excellent. As track season is drawing close here, as the winter sports season is about to end. Good call. Good to throw in there. Okay, so our education topic this week, we thought we'd have you on, and you're almost we'll ask some questions here and there, but a lot of our stuff that we've talked about through the episodes, the first 60 episodes, has been secondary related, obviously, because we both work on the secondary level. But we thought we'd bring a guest on from the elementary. Want to sort of hear of like what led you into working the elementary. Up at the high school, our former boss, Mr. Bill Stevenson, whenever there used to be these little, and you know this as well, and we're not explaining anything new. There's always sort of these little, I don't want to say feuds, but I guess visions of what's going on at the high school and visions of what's going on down at the elementary. And some days, some people, and I'm not saying it's everybody, some people think, oh, they got it so easy up there. And some people say, oh, they got it so easy down there. Now, Mike and I both, we're from the, and I'm sure you're a pretty reasonable guy. We understand that it's a totally different operation. And you have to have a totally different personality. I don't think it's easier down there. That's why our former boss, Bill Stevenson, said, we checked the box. The famous, when you were back at Eastern, you checked the box, and we checked the box that said 7 through 12. Well, for me at that time, it was 7 through 12. I think it might be 6 through 12 now. And knowing that this is what my personality is best suited for, I'm checking this box. There'll be things that are harder about it, that I'm checking this box that I have to accept. There are going to be things that are better down there that I'm going to miss out on, but I check this box because there are more positives for me and my personality up here. So we'd sort of like to hear like what led you to check that box, and then sort of like what are the things you love about working down there, and maybe some of the things that like, could you ever see yourself popping up middle school level maybe, or is it one of those things like, no way, man, I checked this box, this is where I'm meant to be?
Yeah, I for the most part, I would have said probably not. I probably would have said, I'm good sticking down here. Like, this is kind of my pocket. But the last few years or so, now that my boys are getting older and I'm getting more into the high school scene with sports and student council and everything, I'm starting to get drawn to it. I'm not saying that I'm going anywhere, but I'm just, I'm seeing more of the aspect from as a parent. So I also kind of get to see it as a teacher as well. And I could see doing any level really. Just teaching in general is pretty cool to me, in my opinion. But elementary is where I've kind of always wanted to be in a way. I associate most of it with my third grade teacher, Mrs. Campbell, Gudith Elementary School. She just was different. I know everybody has that one teacher probably if they, enjoyed anything in school at all growing up, but she just was different. And even after third grade, she like kind of set this bar that I would compare other teachers to. And to this day, I just try to emulate a lot of the stuff that I remember from how she ran a classroom. So that was the first real major reason why I chose elementary. But when I started subbing and things like that, I kind of felt like I fit better in elementary. I'm a little more goofier than I think teenagers would roll with, maybe not as a coach or whatever, but as a teacher anyway. I just you can be a little more silly, I guess. You don't have to be quite as worried about your personality and stuff like that in elementary school. It's a lot of goofing around and stuff, and so I feel like elementary is a little bit easier in that way. But yeah, there's even between subbing stuff, there's a lot of differences that I can think of. I don't know if you guys wanted me to go into that or right now, or
well, I mean, how do you I mean, so you've been fourth grade, you said fourth grade is where you're at, and that's what you've been since day one at Hunter. And so you've had, now do they, and I'm not trying to play dumb. I know back when I was at Hunter, I went to Hunter, and I know my own kids going through Chapman, some grades they would rotate and go to a different teacher for a subject, and even me, but wait, I'm not even equate myself because it was so long ago. That only happened to me once I hit sixth grade, and I would switch with one teacher for one subject. Do you have the same kids all day? Do you rotate a subject? What's your current situation like right now, I guess?
Currently right now we have 3 fourth grade teachers at Hunter, and we do swap a little bit. I'm the social studies teacher, so we actually have the teachers in my grade. We decided to move the teacher instead. So okay. I'll go to all 3 classrooms 2 to 3 times a week and teach social studies. One of my teaching partners, Miss Sarnota, she's the science teacher, and then our other teaching partner, Mrs. Getch, we decided to do grammar because it's so bad in elementary school. We decided to dedicate specific, to grammar and, writing. So that's how we switch. But we all teach our own math. We all teach our own reading.
Okay, so you do get some interaction with, instead of just your core of your class, you get to really know the entire fourth grade right. Because of the rotation system. So because that's one of the things that we have at secondary is, obviously we're never going to see everybody in our rooms, but we obviously see more kids per day in our room than most people at elementary, even with the rotation, because like Mike, even though I've lost touch with the classroom, Mike has 5 sections with 30 students a day, so he's seeing 150 kids a day.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely one of the most significant differences though between elementary and secondary is the amount of students. Even though I do see other students, it's not every day. Like you said, like Michael sees an entire classroom every hour or whatever every day, different kids every time. I'm only spending a small 45 50 minutes a couple times a day, and the building's a lot smaller, so they're just a classroom over. It's not as big of an area. So that is one of the major differences that I can see, is just the type of, because another year you could have a teaching partner that would rather not switch, then you don't have to. I've had years where I didn't switch at Hunter and at another building, and so you teach all the subjects, and then you have your classroom, and the only time you see any other students in that grade level is if you see them at lunch or something like that. So that is a big difference.
I was originally an elementary ed major, and actually I kept it for a while. I went to a friend's classroom, was just thinking about this just now. This guy, I've always viewed him as being so young and hip. He's darn near retirement. And I haven't talked to him in probably about a year, but he may be retiring after this year. But his classroom was in Pinckney. And it was a fourth grade class. And, you know, I went in there like, man, this is what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do. And these kids, like, it was just crazy to me. First off, the idea of being with the same group of kids the entire day, I didn't realize how the little things that are kind of cute at the beginning of the day kind of grate anybody in. But you know, sitting down for reading, and you got kids like sitting on your feet. You got the kid that wants to show you this picture he's drawn, and there's one line drawn. He comes back and shows you the line he drew. And I didn't realize that part of it. And I really was given an education that day, and that was the day I decided I'm not doing elementary. So for me, man, you guys are, it's top notch. I realize everything is kind of different. And you know, the checking the box thing Mike mentioned, there's certainly some positives and negatives of both, but the amount of patience you guys have to have is unreal. So I commend you all for that, because like I said, one day, I mean, I had subbed a little bit too, but that one day was like, man, there's no way I can do this. So you guys are doing God's work down there for sure.
Yeah, you know, I appreciate it. But yeah, that's really, you know, all the little notes I kind of had in my head for today, all the comparing and contrasting, most of it is with that type of, you know, developmental skill level and independence. You're right. That's like the biggest aspect of it. The best story I can give is when I first started subbing for Rocco. That day I saw you, was one of my first sub jobs. And I remember I was kind of nervous because I've never subbed in a high school or anything before. And so I come in and, you know, he's like, hey, I teach math. Can you sub for me? I was like, you know, sure. You know, I get in there and then I sit down and I looking at the sub plans. I'm realized he only teaches like advanced level math. And I'm in elementary school here. And, you know, the best I can do is, you know, comparing fractions. And, you know, he's got a AP Calc class first hour, you know, statistics the next hour. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do here? And at the bottom of his notes, it says in bold, don't worry, every group will take care of themselves. He's like, all you got to do is take attendance and then show them which pile is theirs on my desk, and they'll do everything. You just got to sit there and, you know, just do classroom management if you have to. And I thought there is no possible way. But it was, that's how it was. And it was, you know, everybody came in, said good morning, grabbed their work, got in their groups, got to work, bell rang, they left. And I basically just sat there all day, you know, doing not much, just saying hi and goodbye to a group every hour. And then a couple days later, I subbed at Parsons for gym. And I remember the first 3 classes, all I did, I couldn't even get to the assignment because all I did was tie shoes. My very first class, it was a kindergarten class, and he said, line up against the wall, make sure their shoes are tied, and then have them run down the gym and back and then take attendance, right? So whose shoes are tied? Who needs their shoes tied? Every single student, all 20 something of them, raise their hand. I need my shoes tied. So I'm tying double shoes. So, you know, almost 60 pairs of shoes. And it takes me a good half hour. And then they'd run I do attendance, and then it's time to go. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the difference is ridiculous, you know? Yeah, just those little things.
I think
is a huge.
Yeah, I think definitely like at the high school, and again, this way, it's just a different personality. And I think like we're spoiled at the high school that if you know, if you're not feeling well one day, but not sick enough that you can work up a lesson that you could just sort of, you're not on, you don't have to be on for 6 hours. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, you have to be supervising your kids and taking role, but you can't pull that off in the elementary at any level. 5th grade all the way down, and especially the lower you go, I'd imagine. You know, and you know, we have some luxuries of you know, standing out in the hallway, letting the kids flow in, especially, you know, even the 9th graders when they come in. I mean, most people get under the routine and know what's going on and know what's expected, and the behavior at our school is pretty good. But that's a luxury that a lot of teachers don't have, that we can stand on the hall and talk in passing, and there's 23 kids in your room or 30 kids in your room, and nothing is going on in there that shouldn't be going on. That you guys don't have that luxury. And we totally get it. And you know, and I think, you know, sometimes people fear secondary because they're like, oh, you know, what's this kid's gonna get, if I were to yell at a kid in elementary school, I doubt they're gonna get face to face with me and get into it with me. And sometimes we get that at the high school for about 15 seconds, and then they realize they're in the wrong. But there's really, it's really a personality thing. I started in the middle school, so I feel like and I've coached youth sports, and that's totally different than teaching. I get that. So I've worked, I coach, and I know you have too. I coach my kid all the way up through elementary. So I've worked with groups of 12 to 13 boys or girls, depending on the sport. And I could survive that. I don't know if I could, that was like 2 days a week, right? Like you'd practice and then have a sport day. That was about my limit with that age group, even when it was my own kid. So I commend you guys, and again, and that's what people need to understand about education is we are all one big unit, that we are supporting each other, knowing that there's people up in the high school that know they can't go down there and do what you're doing, and there's people that are down there that know, hey, we're doing this up to a certain point, then we're handing them off, and this is where you guys come in.
I want to add to one other difference. I was just thinking about this as you were talking, Mike. When we have something go wrong too, if we're for whatever reason, just I think back, I'm sure you remember the end of the year 2006 when we had sort of a transitionary period between one leader and the next.
Yes.
Things were kind of spiraling out of control, and our group also, if there's not adults around and something goes wrong, the majority of kids are going to come find us, right? And so we had that major thing going on in the school store there, and we were dragged from the lunchroom because the kids knew this isn't okay. I think in your end, Tom, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just kind of curious, they might be a little bit more cautious as to what they're supposed to do, because the elementary kid has a little bit more discerning to do between, am I being a tattletale, or is this really just a situation where I need to tell somebody about it?
No, that's for sure. That's a huge one. Because they're still little kids, they're still looking, they don't have a sense of, they don't have that independence that you have when you're 14, 15, 17, 18 years old. You're still being told all the time what to eat, what to wear, what time to go to bed, brush your teeth. So you still have all these, so when you come to school, you're still looking at the teacher as more of like almost like a parent. We tell them what time to eat lunch, and we still have to say, get out your pencils, put away your this, as simple as kids come in every morning and they don't realize they don't have a lunch, and then they tell you at noon when it's time for lunch that they don't have a lunch, so you're correct. Like, if something happens, they really don't know what to do. They're just looking, they're just going to sit there and hope a teacher shows up, or you're right, they're just going to, there's always maybe one, you get lucky. You get that one student that's a little bit more, I guess, mature than and most elementary school students, who sometimes can take charge. But again, that's few and far between. Usually, if you're lucky, you get one every year that kind of can help you in a way in those situations. But just independence and things like time management and crisis control, like you said, those things those are all things that you got to kind of hold hands in it, if you want to say, in a different way. But there's a lot more hand holding in elementary school, even up to 4th and 5th grade, for sure. For sure. And then a lot more, I don't know exactly, but I feel like there's a lot more parent teacher communication, I feel like, in elementary school. Not because you want to, but because not to say it one way or another, but on an average morning, I'm probably emailing or parent scoring with 4 or 5 teachers or parents. Oh, hey, so and so forgot to comb their hair. Could you find someone to comb their hair? So and so forgot their gym shoes. Could you tell Mr. the gym teacher this? And I feel like you probably don't get that kind of stuff. If somebody in your 3rd hour forgets their homework, their parents not calling you, saying, hey, so and so forgot their homework. And so honestly, a good half hour of my morning every day is making sure everybody has a snack, and make sure everybody has a coat, making sure, and answering parent emails or parent squares pretty much that's, mornings how in elementary school, that's pretty much how it goes. So yeah, I know that's not how it goes in high school, not having a high schooler, so yeah, that's definitely a big difference. Parent communication is a lot more, I feel like, in elementary school. So can't really, like you said, the bell rings, you can kind of get started. Everyone kind of gets in, knows what they're supposed to do for the most part. But yeah, elementary, there's no getting started, I guess, right away, if that makes sense.
No, totally. We appreciate your insight and input. We're going to move right into overrated, underrated, which still ties into your area of expertise because it doesn't happen as much at the high school level. And again, this was going to tie in better with last week. Now, I'm not trying to pile on you, Mike, that we couldn't do the episode last week because a lot of it was on me too. But last week would have been Valentine's Day parties as well, right? Those are still a thing at elementary level. So we figured what a great overrated, underrated topic. Overrated, underrated class parties. Any aspect that go from Mike and I could be a parent wise or from our days back being a kid wise. Tom, your experiences now or however you want to do it. So what do you got for us that's overrated class party? I know because we had our union meeting Tuesday, the elementary people were exhausted walking into that union meeting. I totally get it. What do you got as overrated for class parties?
Overrated, I think. Well, overrated, I got a couple I was trying to choose between. As far as a teacher goes, I feel like the pressure of having to like give something to each student during a class party, I feel is kind of overrated. My first few years, I would stress out and I'll be up all night looking for the coolest teacher gifts to give students and everything, and thinking I had to go, do all this stuff. And one year I said, you know what, I just kind of made something up and I gave, something I thought would be fun, and I gave it to them. It didn't cost me much and stuff. And to this day, that's my class's favorite thing every year. They find out from the kids, the fifth graders, oh, are we going to get that, that from Christmas like they did last year? And it was just something really simple. So teacher, the gift you give to the students, I feel like is kind of overrated. But also another part that I feel like is overrated is I don't know how to say this, something it sound like the classroom party itself, like it doesn't have to be such a big theatrical thing, and it's just something to tie into the theme of the holiday and to kind of get the kids away from working for an hour or something like that. And you think a lot of teams like, oh, that's a nice break for you. It's like you said, they were exhausted. It's not really a break because you're almost like a party planner every holiday. You gotta plan something, and so that's kind of the overrated. I think it doesn't have to be such a big deal. A lot of teachers put all this pressure. I feel like, I don't know if it's because of another building or another grade level maybe goes big and you feel like you got to go big, but you
keep
really
it up
don't.
with the Joneses.
Really, it's like it's not that big of a deal. The kids just they just want the break. They just want to have some fun, and it could be as simple as you want it to be, and the kids will love it just as much. So for any teachers listening out there that do elementary, like, just relax. It's not a big deal.
It'll all be fine.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what do you got as your overrated? And tell me where it's coming from.
I'm going to jump off of what Tom says. My underrated is going to lead into my overrated. So I'm going to do both at once.
That's fine.
All right. So Tom, I'm agreeing. The parties themselves, the theatrics, the pageantry, they are very overrated.
This ties into your homecoming court overratedness too. I can there's a theme.
Okay,
that's right. That's been canceled now that your daughter's the princess.
That's right, King Gervasi.
There is a thing. But listen. So Mike, so I'm gonna lead it into my underrated. All right, the parties themselves being overrated. Mike, when's your birthday? I know the answer, but I'm asking you.
My birthday is May 1st.
Yes, Tommy. Just kidding. I was channeling my Joe Harrison. Tom Pack. Again, that's an inside joke. Tom, staff member. Tom Pack, when's your birthday?
February 15th.
Okay, so you guys don't understand something. Us July birthdays or August birthdays.
Boy.
We were always left out. All right. So the underrated, I'm speaking for the summer babies. We never got that party. We just had the struggle is real, fellas. We had to go and watch all you guys, the 80+% of the class that got the parties, the 20%. We're tougher. We had to watch this. So the underrated are the people that didn't have the June through September birthdays. It's the July and August birthdays that didn't get the party. The struggle is real, fellas. underrated us.
Is before you get to your underrated, I don't
That
want.
is my underrated.
Oh, the underrated is the not. Wait, well, what's the parties in general? Are the overrated. The underrated is the
underrated are
summer
the people that don't get the parties.
Oh,
We're
the
the
woe is
underrated. We're
us.
forgotten.
Pull up your bootstraps and make yourself an ice cream cone cupcake at
Whatever,
home.
man.
All right. That's well, my question is: are birthdays a thing still, or has that been banned since COVID? Or I thought when my kids were getting done with elementary, they were like, no more birthday treats. I thought that was what was going down the lines, but due to either food allergies and other things. So what's the current state of birthdays in the elementary world?
Birthday parties are a touchy subject.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, it's okay. That's all right. I feel like every elementary building and every teacher kind of has their own kind of view on it. And it did kind of go away with COVID 2020, 2021, we came back, it was absolutely nothing coming in from home,
Yeah.
And so, and last year, even, the first half of the year with the masks and everything, it was no, absolutely not. But we're slowly kind of, this year, we're slowly kind of getting back into, and also if a parent shows up to the front with 24 cupcakes, like it's hard to be like, yeah, you can't.
No?
It's really hard. It's very touchy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tom, how do you include those July babies?
That's actually, this year is one of my first years. When I you can like print the birthday list, on MyStar and everything, and at the beginning of the school year, I look, elementary, you got a birthday wall. You got to have that birthday wall, and I couldn't believe how many summer birthdays I had this year. Out of 23 students, over half of them were like June, July, August, early September birthdays. And I'm like, geez, I just don't do a ton for birthdays, even during the school year. We do a little, we make them come up front and we sing to them. We have a little dance we do and all that, and I give them a homework pass for their birthday. But at the end of the school year, what I do is I bring them all up, all the June, July, August birthdays, and we sing every time. For every student, we sing it all over again. So if there's 10, we just sing it 10 times in a row. We celebrate all 10 of them at the same time, and they all still get, they still get their little homework pass, but it's towards the end of the school year. But it is tough. I get that. Being a February birthday, it's not as tough, but yeah, that's definitely for sure. That's how I deal with it anyway.
All right.
So,
all right. My overrated is and it ties into the Valentine's Day party. The new era of like back in our day with Valentine's, remember, it was just a card. You go pick out and it'd be like a little plastic cutout. Aren't these Valentines like people are like doing like almost like mini gift bags for some of these Valentines now? Has it gotten to that point? Back in the day, listen, man, I want the Spider-Man set. Whoever the cutest girl was in 3rd grade, I'd get the best Spider-Man one, and write her, give that one to her. Now I see like there's on TikTok and stuff, there's like gift bags, almost like when you go to the award show, and it's not just a little plastic card anymore, right? Am I right with this? Like, overrated is the craziness that is now the Valentine's Day, no longer just a card.
Not just Valentine's Day. That's all holidays. You always have the few kids or the few families that they go all out. It doesn't matter Halloween, birthdays, Valentine's Day. The kid's gonna be asking for you to come out to the car and help them with a big old box of something, full of gift bags and stuff. And then so it's a little of both. It's like, I would say it's like 60-40. 60% the kids are still with the sucker with a little card on it, or what's popular, the fun dip, what you can write your name on the fun dip, and that's, you get that kid, and then you also get, like you said, you'll get the kid with the cellophane heart bags full of pencils and candy and what say you, and it's a little of both. But you're right, yeah, it's either go big or go home, or keep it old school. It's one or the other. There's no in between. Yeah, not at all. And I guess sometimes you feel you almost want to be like, let's just everyone get the same thing, but then again, you don't want to have to worry about that as well. But yeah, that's for sure. There's definitely a lot of that. Yeah.
All right. So Mike gave his underrated,
yeah,
complaining about his summer birthday. What do you have as underrated for the holiday party scene in the elementary world?
Underrated for holiday parties. This was a harder one for me. Underrated. I thought overrated would be harder, but underrated is just ha making it as a holiday party in general. I feel like in elementary school anyway, even at the high school level, sometimes I wonder like we cram so much into the school year now. Like back when we were kids, like you said, it was a little bit simpler, but the times were simpler as well. There was a lot more time to have class parties, I feel
Oh,
like.
yes.
Now, especially like when, you know, after the Christmas break with, you know, with standardized testing and everything, like there's not a lot of time. And you hit March and you're kind of in crisis mode as a teacher, you know, like, am I going to get all this in? And so just it doesn't even have to be a holiday party. I feel like underrated is just taking a break
Yeah.
and letting the kids kind of just have a half hour or an hour or a day to just you know just come to school and have fun. Because you know if you talk to when I talk to high schoolers or former students and stuff, when they remember most about their elementary teacher isn't like how good they were at teaching them division, or
Right.
how great they were at at science. It was that one party or the one teacher that always kind of slowed things down, and they knew when we were kind of overwhelmed and just gave us some free time. Like, so that kind of ties in with my overrated too, is it doesn't have to be such a big deal. um yeah, have a Valentine's party, but also maybe have a March something. Doesn't have to be a big deal. So my underrated really is just the classroom party itself. You don't have to call them a party. You can just have some fun. Don't
Some
worry about
downtime.
Just a break,
just downtime.
mental break.
I totally get
mental
what you're
break.
I totally what you're getting at. It's like we almost feel guilty when we have an assembly or something at the high school, right? And we used to have a
Yeah.
lot more. We used to have like 2 pep rallies for homecoming, and and it's like anytime you put, and it's not our administration making us feel guilty. It's just that some of our own colleagues say, "Hey, why are we having another shortened day?" Like, and I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be 6 days, 6 hours, 6 days, 180 some days. Like, there's got to be some aspect to this. It's not necessarily parties, but things like that, and it's an important part of socialization. It's an important part of the school day. So I think that's a great point. Great underrated. My underrated, and you may disagree with me, I still like the Halloween parade, with all the kids dressed up. This is me as an adult, even when my kids were in elementary. I know the weather sometimes isn't the best and it sucks, and sometimes you have to go inside and this and that. I still think that's one of the coolest things about elementary parties is the old, and I'm pretty sure over by you, Brownstown, what police and fire come and help out. And, I know in Rockwood for Chapman, the Rockwood Fire Department would come. I think that's just a cool thing. If the weather's nice, it's a great event, tied into the Halloween party.
Oh, for sure. And again, that was something that got brought back, the first time this year since 2020. And we didn't know how it would, but yeah, I mean, at Hunter anyway, like it's a big deal. You're right. The fire department comes out with the fire truck to lead the way. Police are in the back, got their sirens going. We let the parents know the route. We go through the Ramblewood subdivision here, and I mean, it's like a mini Thanksgiving Day parade. There's parents lined up and down the street. People with younger kids come out and throw babies in their strollers and wagons just to watch and wave at the kids, and kids feel real special for about an hour there, waving at all these people with their costumes on. And it is definitely, yeah, that's for sure. That was one of the things that was a big bummer that kind of went away over the last few years. But
yeah, and I think it's just
know,
and it really hasn't changed. I mean, back from when I went to Hunter, that was the fire truck and the police truck were there. People would line up and down Roche. The community loves it, even if you don't have kids in school. I think it's just an easy, safe, fun thing to do for kids, and I appreciate that you guys still continue doing that for our elementary kids. I'm glad it's back. It's a fun event.
Sure. Yeah, us too.
All right. It's going to bring us to our hot mic takes of the week. We no pick'ems this week, right? The All-Star game was last night, so we don't even have that. Michigan State basketball game, we missed that. Tom, do you have a hot mic take for us this week?
Man, I thought, do I go heavy here or do I go lighthearted here? It was a hard one.
It's the call we have to make every week.
Yeah,
Every week,
I was walking the dog this morning and I kept trying to go between the two, and I don't know. But it's kind of weighs on my mind, so I feel like I have to go a little heavy. I'm not going to go too far into it, but one of my rules is don't talk politics and religion in a group in a room full of people, friends or not. But just between the news and TikTok and everything, it just, I guess it kind of boggles my mind. And Gervasi and I have talked about this on the side. My hot mic take is, why does there have to be this side and that side with everything? Not even politics, but even going with like the Rihanna thing or the weather balloon thing. Like, why is it one or the other? This country is so one or the other, and it kind of boggles my mind in a way that there's not some sort of middle ground that all these intelligent, educated adults that live in this country and run this country can't seem to come up with some sort of in between. Like, why is it so hard to be the person to be like, hey, I see both sides of the story here. I see both sides of the lane. Like, let's come up with something that kind of fixes both. And this is something that's just like really I'm intrigued with, and I'm always trying to. I like fall into the rabbit hole at night when everyone goes to bed of seeing all these different like political arguments, or even in sports and things like that. My biggest example, I guess, would be like with the whole thing with this voting of the speaker. Like, one party clearly didn't want that speaker, but they still vote him in because they're like, oh, well, he's our team, that's our teammate, so we might as well vote for him. And I guess it boggles my mind. I feel like so much in this country could be fixed if we could just calm down and just look at the whole picture, like you teach every kid to do when you're growing up. So that's my hot mic, I guess.
I think it's a great point. And I think things would be more about problem solving instead of being right.
Right.
That could be the focus of it. I don't know what you were going to say, Mike.
No, I just think I believe it's been exacerbated by social media. I think that's brought out our worst demons. And I'm not saying social media is all evil in all its regards. I think it's done some good things too, but I think it has brought out our worst demons and has really magnified the differences between us and made them. And now social media has kind of led the way. Now all media, we choose our media, we choose our arguments. So, I feel very strongly about things, but I'd like to think I could see other points of view in most, not all circumstances. I think there's certain things that we shouldn't compromise on, but yeah, I agree. I think that's well put, well said, even to the point where, they've studied like even selection of beer has become a political thing, one side or the other. It's so bizarre. So yeah. I'm with Tom. Well said.
Yeah, just bizarre. It's very bizarre to me. Like the fact that M&Ms became a political thing a couple of weeks ago. Like I just can't. I don't understand. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand, but I just in my simple mind, I feel like could be a lot easier solution this day. My other one was teacher dress code though, but I didn't know which one was going to be more hot mic for it. So.
I actually prefer I prefer the one you did here, and so I don't.
Okay.
As union president, I don't want to hear the. Mike, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I kind of bounce back and forth on this too. I'm going to hold off on. I had one regarding former baseball player Wally Pipp. I'm going to hold off on that one right now though, and say I'm refereeing a couple basketball games, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity as a PSA. We grew up in the 90s, and there was sort of like 2 points of view on role models in athletics. One side was the Michael Jordan side, which his commercial, his slogan of Gatorade was "Be like Mike." There's no other, hey, I'm a role model than that because you want to be like me. And then there was Charles Barkley, who's flat out said, I'm not a role model. I'm not charged with raising your kid. Parents are role models. Just because I could dunk a basketball doesn't mean I should raise your kid. And I used to be of the totally Charles Barkley opinion, but I think the realities of life have kind of set in. A couple weeks ago, LeBron James felt like he didn't get a call at the end of the game, and he was actually right. But they studied this a little bit deeper. Not surprisingly, he gets more calls than he doesn't. Nonetheless, his antics after, and I'm one on here, I'll preface by saying I do criticize officials, especially as a Lions fan. I feel like we've gotten wrong with some controversial calls. So, Mike, I'm prefacing by saying that. I know you think that, but I do think the athletes need to be much more mindful of how they're acting, because LeBron encapsulated something. It's not his fault kids model him. He's just a great basketball player, but they do. And so I'm sure if LeBron James is listening, watching him and then seeing the way some kids react to foul calls in youth basketball is very similar. eerily similar, sadly similar. And I think athletes need to be more mindful of that. Unfortunately, NBA players have the misfortune of being so up in your face. You know, the game is so close to where the fans are. They're not wearing any protective gear. It's just their uniforms. So you see everything they're doing. And with that comes it's much more visible. I have no doubt in my mind NFL players argue calls. I have no doubt in my mind hockey players, baseball players, you can see managers doing it, but it's much more in your face with basketball. And I hope they become much more mindful, because it is so apparent now. And we see it with parents in the stands, the way they act towards officials. But this is the second time I've done this, but it comes off the heels of LeBron acting that way on national television. I really think that they need to be more, athletes in general need to be more mindful of how they're acting, because the youth absolutely models themselves on what they're doing.
All right. Well said and well done. And totally agree. I totally agree. But it's hard. I mean, you know, I know from having a son that, you know, watches and plays basketball, you know, and I get on his case right away if he, you know, rolls his eyes or does whatever. But we've worked games lots of times, and some of the stuff I see is just crazy, you know, to these poor guys and gals that are officiating these games. You know what I mean? So, all right, my hot mic take, I guess borders on lighthearted, but it ties into this. I've been watching some TikTok videos, and I was never, I listened to a couple other podcasts out there. And I never listened to, as some say, the gold standard of podcasts right now, right? The Joe Rogan Experience. I mean, that's obviously my days of Joe Rogan, I remember when he hosted Fear Factor. That's my last interaction with any of his stuff. But on TikTok, I saw a couple, these people like take like clips and put it together. And a couple of these clips to me were pretty interesting, mainly because of the guests. I told you this, Mike, that, you know, there's a couple of guests that I saw on these clips. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go find these episodes, because I got 90 seconds of clips and they were really interesting. And something came across to me now as I've listened to now like 2 on my walks, and they're pretty long. They're about 2-hour episodes usually. It's all about the guests. And and again, congratulations, you know, in honor here of our guest here, Mr. Pack. And I think about like all of our episodes, our most listened to episodes, if you look at the data, are usually all of our episodes with guests. And that's the thing with Joe Rogan. And I know he's you know, again, speaking of sides, there's sides, you know, there's people that can't stand the guy and there's people that praise the guy. I'm sort of like one of these guys, like, okay, I knew him from before. I'm going to listen to a couple of these episodes. He's really good at his job. He's really good on that show, interviewing people and asking questions. And the guests, though, make the show. I'm not listening now to everyone. I'm going through the list and saying, okay, this guest sounds interesting. I'm going to add this to my collection. I'm going to go to this one. And I think I just wanted to point that out today, as we've had another guest. I want to point out and talk about our past guests. You know, if you find something and you want to learn something, don't just throw it off to the side because of one person hosting a show. The episodes, these couple guests that I've listened to, and they've been topics of, you know, science and the current political system and stuff like things. I'm going down this list, and the one I'm listening to now is this wildlife guy that has to deal with all these strange, unique species out in different parts of the world, and it's interesting to me. I just want to say to our guests, thank you for being here. But also, a lot of these shows are really built upon the guests.
So let me a call by here. I have 2 guys on a text thread that love them. Travis is always like, and then my friend Deontay, who's in Arizona. And when Rogan himself took on political dimensions, it didn't seem like it was his fault. He took a stance on the vaccine, and that seemed to put us on political sides here. But Deontay has been saying it, and I've kind of watched a few episodes recently with his guests. He does seem to have very good guests on from all political spectrums. And Rogan himself doesn't, it seems like he became a politicized figure, but it wasn't necessarily his fault. And I will admit, I kind of fed into that at first as well. And I regret it now. I was wrong. Again, I don't know. There's certain things he did that I think were somewhat inexcusable. But in terms of just what his stance was on the vaccine, I mean, he's allowed to have his opinion. And because of that, I think it became much more political. But he has had recently really, really interesting guests on from all political persuasions. And once we start stifling these voices, man, that's not okay. And so I'm well said, Mike, and I agree. And again, Deontay, you were right on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. Again, fear factor, right? I was like, why is this guy getting so much leverage here with his views? And I didn't get into listening to podcasts until a couple of years ago. Again, we're quarantined, and I'm running out of what things I need to kind of be on my own and do, and kind of unwind. And I thought, let me try out a podcast real quick, and I got hooked. And then Mike, I'm kind of Gervasi, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Is like without giving him a chance at first, like you just kind of see the internet fodder and stuff like that. You're like, oh gosh, this guy's crazy, right? But Bodie, like you're right, man. When every once in a while you catch these snippets on TikTok, right? And you're like, he interviews people really well, and you're right. And it kind of reminded me of like Howard Stern back when he was everything,
Yeah.
I mean, you would listen to some of his, and it was the guest. It wasn't just because Howard Stern was just a brilliant interviewer. It was just the way he would interact with the specific guests and what they were trying to put out there.
Sure.
Man, some of those episodes were just even like you wouldn't hear David Arquette and think like profound person in a way, I guess. But man, that was to this day one of the best interviews I've ever listened to. Howard Stern, David Arquette, like it was like gain a whole new perspective, not just him and his as a person, but just like so many different things that he was talking about that he brought to the table. And yeah, it's a big deal. And I just also recently just started kind of, because of TikTok and seeing those snippets, like trying to get into a little more Joe Rogan, podcasts, depending on who he was talking to and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah,
you can pick and
100%.
choose. Yep, you can pick, and that's a great comparison because Howard Stern's very similar in the fact that he alienated a lot of people, based upon his choices of what he said and what he did. But you're right, when it came to his interviewing skills, and I still listen to him sometimes on Sirius, even now he's almost like 69, 70 years old, I think. When he interviews celebrities, musicians, actors, he just had Pamela Anderson on when I was driving around last week, who came out with this new biography. And it was actually a really good interview, asking her about like what she went through, and he's very good at his job. A great comparison. So,
yeah, Howard, he's a very deep guy. Has quite a story to tell, and that got part of that's on him. He let that happen.
Well, no, he let himself. But it's funny. He's the opposite with the vaccine with Joe Rogan. He like locked himself away. And didn't want to even leave. He's still very COVID. Fearful, and it's like two different opposites. They're interesting that those are the two names that came up. Tom, you were a great guest. We love the input on the elementary. We appreciate you taking time on your President's Day off. I hope you're going to enjoy some rest for the rest of the afternoon, of course. Thank you for being here. And Mike, anything else you want to add?
No, great show, Tom. Thank you so much, man.
For sure. I really appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Real quick though, before I go, man, I just wanted to compliment you guys on your 4 kids. I know I've known Natalia since she was 3 years old, but man, just being in the school system between teaching and coaching youth sports and just extracurricular stuff with some of our kids being close to the same age, they just 4 very impressive people. I was Chloe's catechism teacher in 4th grade. Yeah. I don't know if she remembers that. And
yes.
It wasn't very much, but Danny's a year younger, so every once in a while, we'd have to compete against Nate. And seeing Natalia at Chapman and stuff when I would sub and stuff, just even Lena, even though I don't know her as well, just very just good people, like the kind of kids you want like in your school system, like the kind of kids you look forward to seeing how they serve the community when they're older. And I just want to commend you guys on like just doing a great job, you guys, and the moms, just 4 amazing kids. So I appreciate being part of a community where kids like that are the representative of our school district. So I just want to get that out there.
Well, I want to personally thank you very much. That I always consider that to be the most important job as a dad, my wife as a mom. And, I only know your oldest boy, Danny, who I've just started working with the student council, and a great kid. And I'm sure the same can be said of you and your wife and your kids. It's hard sending your kids to where you work. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It makes it harder on our kids. There's been days, when they got the daddy's boy chant at the assembly just a couple of weeks ago after his class won the spirit jug. But it makes them, I think, better learners, better people. It makes them a little tougher. But I thank you very much. That's kind to say, and I'm very proud of my kids. I know, like I said, your kids. I know Mike's kids. I think we all deserve a pat on the back because it's hard. But being a dad alone without even teaching is hard. So,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, Tom, thank you. I so appreciate that. Thank you so much for saying that.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, have a great week. We're happy to be back. We will see everybody next week with a new episode.